Hello there, Stevos, and welcome along to this week's episode of Steve's Movie Wrap-Up right here on my YouTube channel, SteveOfficial. So, without further ado, let's start off with this week's reviews and see what movies I've been watching and reviewing as well. You're watching Steve's Movie Wrap-Up, episode 53, right here on my YouTube channel, SteveOfficial. The first movie we'll be reviewing in this episode is Hot Frosty. So the first movie I've seen this week is actually a festive movie, a new festive movie for 2024, and it is titled Hot Frosty, which I've gave 2 stars over on Letterboxd. So Hot Frosty is another new Christmas movie that Netflix has released in 2024, and I will say that similar to Meet Me Next Christmas, which I reviewed in my last movie wrap-up episode, when I reviewed that movie, I said the trailer for that movie looked like something that you would have found at Christmas on the Hallmark channel or something, and the movie itself took me by surprise and I enjoyed myself watching that film. Well, Hot Frosty is the same, to be honest. The trailer for this movie made me feel like I was going into this watching a Christmas romance movie that you would find on the Hallmark channel at Christmas, but it turns out that Hot Frosty, upon viewing the movie in full actually, took me by surprise. So what did I think of Hot Frosty? It turns out I did enjoy the film. The film does have a running time of 1 hour and 32 minutes, and I did feel as though the beginning of the story and the opening sequence kind of felt a little too cheesy and a little cheap, if I'm honest. And the story really starts to get going within the first 10 minutes of the movie. This kind of reminded me of that movie Jack Frost, which stars Michael Keaton. That's how this movie felt, but rather than an actual snowman coming to life, you have a snowman transform into a man. A handsome, attractive man for that matter. He was made by snow, but one night, as entrepreneur Kathy leaves her cafe business, she takes a photo using the flashlight on her phone of this snowman wearing her scarf. She's wrapped around him and leaves it on him. That is when he transforms into a human man. Now, I know the story and the plot does seem rather far-fetched, I'll be honest. It does sound like a crazy plot for a movie, but I will say that the cast in here did a great job in their roles, as you had Dustin Milligan play the role of Jack, who is the snowman turned human man, and you also have Lacey Chabot, who plays the other main character of Kathy, and you also have Joe Lo Truglio, who plays one of the police officers. It's rather funny, as this actor appears to be typecasted as a police officer in quite a lot of things. He plays a character in the police department in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, the TV series, and is also a policeman in the movie Paul as well. I will say, though, that the third act for me felt like a slight drag and did lose me a little bit, but aside from this, though, I did still enjoy the movie, surprisingly. I thought it was going to be a bad Christmas movie, which I would have rated half a star on Letterboxd, so 2 stars out of 5 is actually rather impressive. For me, this film was a heartwarming story, but at the same time, a rather wholesome story too, and Kathy does have a sad backstory, as she is a widow who lost her husband, sadly, to cancer, so there's a little bit of sadness in the story as well. Is this a movie that I would recommend people to watch over the festive period? I think so, even if you're not into those holiday romance type Christmas movies, because they may come across as too cheesy and too corny. I would say still give this one a watch, and is this a film I could see me watching yearly or annually at Christmas? I think so, surprisingly. I think I will re-watch this one again in Christmas 2025. Hot Frosty is now streaming on the streaming service Netflix globally. Emilia Perez. The next movie I've seen this week is Emilia Perez, which I gave 1.5 star over on Letterboxd. Rita, an underrated lawyer working for a large law firm more interested in getting criminals out of jail than bringing them to justice, is hired by the leader of a criminal organisation. I'll be honest here, this movie for me didn't work well. The film does star Selena Gomez and Zoe Saldana, and it is nice to see Zoe Saldana take on a more major role, or a main character role, rather than a secondary role that we have seen her in past movies such as Avatar and Marvel Studios' Guardians of the Galaxy. And I will say that Selena Gomez did her best with the role that she was given throughout this movie. At least the majority of this movie, it is mainly spoken in Spanish, with a little bit of English language used throughout the movie as well every now and then. The movie itself does have a running time of 2 hours and 12 minutes, and for me, it did feel like its running time, unfortunately. It's really odd because this film has been shown at a few film festivals this year before its streaming release, and the people who saw this at the film festivals this year have been hyping up this movie and giving it nothing but positive reviews, but sadly for me, I am not one of those people giving it the best positive review, unfortunately. And what's even more sad is the streaming service that brought this movie from film festivals, Netflix, has been really advertising this movie for the last couple of months. This was also classed as a musical crime thriller, and for me, the songs were rather an embarrassment, and I don't think I will remember any of the songs used in this movie either after seeing this. For me, I felt as though the theme, the style of this movie, and the story was just bafflingly very weird, weirdly disconnected. Is this a movie that I could see me watching again? Sadly, I don't think so, and it's a real shame I feel this way because about this movie, because it does feel as though the likes of Selena Gomez and Zoe Saldana, two very talented actresses from the projects I have seen them in the past, were just wasted in this movie, unfortunately. Emilia Perez is now available to stream on Netflix globally. Your Monster. So, the next film I have seen this week is Your Monster, which I gave 4 stars over on Letterboxd. Your Monster is a new movie released in 2024 under the genre horror rom-com, which for me is a little weird to say horror rom-com in the same sentence, because it's not often that you come across a rom-com that has elements of horror in it, but Your Monster does have only a slight few elements of horror within the film, and it does also star a horror legend in the form of Melissa Barrera as well. And can I just say that despite the fact that I have seen her in movies Bed Rest, Scream 2022, Scream 6, and in Abigail that was released earlier this year, I feel as though Your Monster is actually the best performance I've actually seen her do as an actress, and she was good in the other roles she has played in other films. I feel as though the real monster in this movie isn't the monster itself. The real monster here is the character of Jacob, who is the ex-boyfriend of main character Laura Franco, played by Barrera. And I think you do realise that towards the end of the film. I should also applaud Melissa Barrera in this film for her singing. Like, this damn actress can bloody sing. If she released an album tomorrow, I would have it on replay instantly, because she does do some singing in this movie and her voice actually took me by surprise. The funny thing about this movie is actually it could be a great double feature if you also watch the movie Lisa Frankenstein that came out at the start of 2024. I think both of these movies, put them together, would be a great double feature. The film does have a running time of 1 hour and 43 minutes, and for me, I did enjoy each second of the film. It did get a few laughs from me when it came round to the comedy elements in this film as well. Is this a movie I would recommend people to watch? Most definitely it is. And is this a movie I would consider buying and keeping on digital when it does get released on digital platforms in the future? Most definitely. I think I would most definitely be happy to rewatch this movie again from time to time. Bagman. And the next film I have seen this week is Bagman, which I gave 1.5 stars over on Letterboxd. For centuries and across cultures, parents have warned their children of the legendary Bagman, who snatches innocent children and stuffs them into his vile, rotting bag, never to be seen again. Patrick McKee narrowly escaped such an encounter as a boy, which left him with lasting scars throughout his adulthood. Now, Patrick's childhood tormentor, has returned, threatening the safety of his wife, Karina, and son, Jake. In 2023, there was a movie called Baghead. I have just looked to see what rating I gave that movie, and I gave it half a star more, as I gave that movie 2 stars on Letterboxd, whereas Bagman, I have given 1.5 star on Letterboxd. Now, there is no connection between the two movies, or at least I don't think there is. I don't think they are from the same, all set in the same universe, but I wouldn't at all be surprised if they were, though. But I just wanted to make that comparison between the two movies that both begin with the word bag in the title. But what did I think of Bagman, though? Well, to be honest, it was just a bag full of crap. There was some rather noticeable CGI thrown in this movie, which is just painfully obvious. It does build a little tension here and there, but for me, it doesn't execute the tension really well, though. Like, there are some scenes in this movie that did keep me intrigued and did keep me interested and a little invested. But for me, though, it is when those scenes start to go downhill that I started losing a little interest in the story and the movie itself. That being said, though, the story is a little bland and rather boring in places as well. Sometimes it can also be quite predictable in some places. Also, the demon, otherwise known as Bagman, tries to steal this kid called Jake in one scene of the movie. The person looking after Jake for the night to keep him safe and keep him away from being in danger, well, the demon decides to possess this person's house, and as Bagman is in the process of unlocking the door to allow himself in, the woman on the other side of the door randomly says, "Did I mention that I have a gun?" And the way that line was delivered in the movie for me was rather comedic and was just so unserious. Is this a movie I would check out and rewatch again in the future? Sadly, I don't think so, but at the same time, I am glad to have seen this, though, even if it's just the once and once only that I have watched it. Is this a movie I would recommend? I think if you are intrigued to give this a watch for yourselves, then sure, I would recommend it. I wouldn't by no means say this is a horror. This is more of a slow burner thriller movie rather than a horror. But Bagman is available to buy and rent on digital platforms now.
Caddo Lake.
Caddo Lake is the next movie that I watched this week, and I gave it 3.5 stars over on Letterboxd. When an 8-year-old girl mysteriously vanishes on Caddo Lake, a series of past deaths and disappearances begin to link together, forever altering a broken family's history. Caddo Lake, in the words of David Tennant's 10th Doctor in Doctor Who, is a wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey, mind-bending, twisty thriller movie with loads of twists and turns all throughout to keep the viewers watching this movie on the edge of their seats, to keep them intrigued to find out what happens next, and to also keep them interested in the film. It does come with a running time of 1 hour and 43 minutes, and for me, it didn't outstay its welcome. Although I will be honest here, it does take a little while for the movie to get going. But once it does start to get going, though, it does take you on this mind-bending, mind-twisting, and confusing journey through a lake. A mysterious lake, for that matter. Here's a little fun fact here for you, but M. Night Shyamalan is on board with this movie, as he is one of the producers behind this film, and I can totally see and totally understand as to why he wanted to be a part of this project, because honestly this does feel like somewhat a movie that Shyamalan would have done if he had directed or written this movie himself. The cast in here were pretty decent in the roles that they had in this film, but I will say though that annoyingly this does have some shoddy CGI and some obvious use of green screening here, which does make the film fall slightly flat, but I won't let the negatives outweigh the positives that I have for this film. Is Caddo Lake a movie I would recommend people to watch? If you like those kind of movies where it gets a little confusing and something that you can really get your mind into, then I would definitely say give this a go. If you're into your thriller movies, then I would also say definitely check this one out. It's a real shame, to be honest, because this movie was put straight to streaming on HBO Max over in the States and straight to digital platforms here in the UK, because it does make me wonder how well this movie would have done if had it have been released theatrically in terms of how much money this would have made at the box office. Is this a movie, though, that I can see myself buying and keeping on digital platforms in the future and rewatching again? I definitely do think so. I did find this movie to be a decent watch. Caddo Lake is now available on Max streaming service in the US and on digital platforms to buy and keep here in the UK.
An Almost Christmas Story.
An Almost Christmas Story, I gave 3 stars on Letterboxd. An Almost Christmas Story is directed by David Lowery and is available to stream right now over on Disney Plus around the world. It does clock in at just 25 minutes, so it is a short and sweet story. And when I say sweet, I really do mean that. It's a rather heartwarming Christmas story that I can definitely see me watching again. I think the owl in this is rather cute. I think the animation used in this little short film was done rather well. Although some of the people were 3D characters while other characters were done in 2D with the use of cardboard. I found that part to be rather odd, but then again, they're background characters, and I'm not going to complain too much about this short film. For me, I would say that this short film would be an ideal to watch on Christmas Eve, maybe before you put the kids to bed or something like that. But for me, overall, I found the story to be rather cute and rather wholesome as well. An Almost Christmas Story is available to stream now over on Disney Plus around the world.
The Mill.
The Mill, I gave 2.5 stars over on Letterboxd. The Mill is a movie which bizarrely released on Disney Plus in 2023, and the same for Hulu over in the States. And the movie does star Lil Ray Howery, who, by the way, signed up to do multiple projects for 20th Century Studios. After all, he has done the movies Vacation Friends and Vacation Friends 2 for Disney and Hulu. Anyways, he stars in this horror/sci-fi movie. I don't really understand where the horror elements come into this, but I do see where the science fiction side of this movie does come into this, though. I will say that there are some elements in this movie within the script/dialogue that I did enjoy, and it did get some comedic laughs from me. It's just the way how Lil Ray Howery delivered them, and I did feel as though his performance in this movie was fine as well. Is this a movie that I could potentially see myself watching again in the future? This does have the potential for me to watch it again, but I feel as though this did work better as background noise, though. And is this a movie I would recommend people to watch on Disney Plus or Hulu? Yeah, I do think this is worth a watch, even if you do watch it the once and once only. The Mill does have a running time of 1 hour and 45 minutes, and I will be honest, I think the film did start to drag a little towards the end of the film, so it should have just been shaven down by 15 minutes, and I think this film would have worked more perfectly had it have been 90 minutes/1 hour and a half. But also the film doesn't really have too much to offer, so it does make me wonder whether other people seeing this movie, for those who haven't watched it yet, would end up switching off after a while and move on to another movie or TV show rather than finishing this. It does take a little while for the film to properly start, to really get your teeth sunk into it as well, which is unfortunate as well. There is a plot twist, though, at some point within the movie, which I won't spoil, but it may take you by surprise when you do watch this film as to what the plot twist is and when it happens within the movie as well. But The Mill is available to watch on Disney Plus internationally and Hulu over in the US.
Child Star.
And the final film, although you could more class this as a documentary, that I watched this week is Child Star, which I gave 3.5 stars over on Letterboxd. Child Star is a documentary that has recently been released in the last couple of months on Hulu in the States and on Disney Plus around the world. And I will be honest here, I did find this documentary really informative and really interesting as a person who grew up watching young adults on American TV shows, on Disney Channel and on Nickelodeon as well. For me, I did find this an interesting watch. Former Disney Channel star Demi Lovato is interviewing various child stars or former child stars such as Raven Simone, Kenan Thompson, Drew Barrymore, Alison Stoner and Jojo Siwa, as they talk about how they were treated being on set of TV shows and on set of movies as well. And we also get an insight into their highs and lows of their careers. Demi Lovato delves into their own personal experience of what fame has done with the highs and lows of the careers explored. It's really interesting because as a child you see some of these famous faces entertain you, make you laugh as a kid, especially within these US TV sitcoms or movies, but then behind the scenes you don't actually realise how hard fame gets to these actors or actresses until you see these documentaries and they tell their version of events, they tell their stories of how they have managed to handle fame, and it's never really been easy for them at all. I do agree with what this documentary says about today's generation, today's kids. If I was a kid today, I think I would definitely struggle in society because of the way how social media is used, how social media is handled, and more importantly, how pressuring social media can be, especially with the use of TikTok. So I am more so glad that I grew up when social media was only just starting, and I am so glad that I also grew up with TV, watching some of the stars that were interviewed in this documentary as well. Is this a documentary that is worth checking out? For sure, I do think so, especially if you have grown up with these stars and seen them in some Disney Channel and Nickelodeon shows in the past. I would say for sure, check this one out for yourselves. The documentary does have a running time of 1 hour and 38 minutes. And is this a documentary that... Is this a documentary that I could see myself watching again in the future? I do think so, which is so surprising given the fact that I'm not really someone who tends to watch a lot of these documentaries. But saying that though, there are a few documentaries that I will be reviewing over the course of the next few weeks that I am planning to watch and review. But Child Star is streaming on Disney Plus internationally and on Hulu over in the US. And that is all that I've watched this week in terms of movies and documentaries. Thank you for joining me on this week's episode of Steve's Movie Wrap Up. If you've enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment in the comment section down below. Let me know what movies you guys have been watching recently, whether it's old, new, cinema, streaming, Blu-ray, DVD, VHS. Let me know in the comment section down below. And as always, if you are new around here and you like what you see, then feel free to hit that subscribe button down below to become a Steve-O. I will be back again with your next YouTube video again soon, but from me, it's goodbye. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys again in my next YouTube video.